Sometimes the pre-show, but we are live. The button is pushed. We are live. WO301789, the brain. This is the show of all shows. This is our college wrestling season preview show, and we kind of do it in a unique way because we do it with the crystal ball, which I guess let me just get this right out of the way for people who are new here.
Yeah.
Willie's crystal ball is a unique set of rankings that it's not current rankings. It's based on Willie's brain and his crystal ball for what he thinks the results are going to be at the end of March. This changes throughout the year based on results, based on things that happen. But the crystal ball is basically, this is how I think the season is going to go. So this is a great way for us to take Willie's crystal ball, and as we go through it, talk about expectations for the season, talk about storylines for the season. So it's kind of our unique way of previewing the season where we'll talk both crystal ball and the updates and storylines for the year.
Yeah, and just like anything, I'm gonna have a guy place in sixth, and some of you guys will think that he will take third, and some of you will think he will lose in the blood round. But taking it holistically and just looking all through it, you see the major players, you see the major factors at each weight, and it serves as a good jump-off point for the season kickoff, which kicks off this weekend. What all do we have this weekend, bud?
We have a lot. You go tweet out the link to the show so we make sure people are in the chat because this is the first time we're doing the college preview live. So we'll get some more people in the chat. This weekend, I was thinking we would end the show with that, but we could certainly start because we've got about 20, 25 duels this weekend. We've got the Clarion Open, the Southeast RTC, I think, Open. We've got, the Clarion Open looks interesting in a couple weights, like 125, where Ohio State's going to have a triple wrestle off. They've got three guys. I believe Anthony Knox is going to be there. So it's going to be an interesting weight to watch. There's some other one-off matches this weekend. One that's just intriguing to me, I'll give you a random match Bash is going to watch this weekend. David Evans versus Aiden Valencia at 149, UVU versus Stanford. I really like that match because Aiden Valencia has high expectations. He's had a lot of freestyle results. He announced that he went up to 149, which the brain put out 4 months ago in his crystal ball.
Yeah.
That was happening. But you got David Evans coming from Penn State as a backup. Will David Evans can he put together a Bear Claw-like season where he's a backup at Penn State? Can he go somewhere start? So I really like that David Evans, Aiden Valencia potential matchup.
Yeah, I love
it,
especially first weekend of the year. And David Evans, if you don't know, did he have a good win last year, or was it a real close loss? He had a real close loss to like Bartlett, right? But what do you take away from that? Was it Bartlett or was it Shane Van Ness? I don't know.
I don't remember. I'll have to look it up.
It was a teammate, and everybody was like, "Oh, this kid might be good," and he might be good. But it is a teammate. But anyway, that's a good early season match.
Yeah, I think it's a good win for either guy. I think Aiden Valencia comes to 149. If he wins that, I think that's good. If David Evans, David Evans this is the match you're probably thinking about. At the Matttown Open, he had a 4-2 loss to Tyler Kasich. So, that'll be an interesting match this weekend.
All right. And it's All-Star Classic this weekend.
Yes, All-Star Classic this weekend. I was going to do that later in the show. Maybe give some picks and preview for the All-Star Classic.
All-Star Classic, Clarion Open, Southeast Open.
All-Star Classic's going to be a fun one. I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and there's some people poo-pooing on, basically you see no Penn State in the lineup, and all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not really, when you have so many good guys at Penn State and you don't have Penn State there, on the surface, you see that, and that sticks out too. But there's a lot of great matchups there. You talk maybe the two best heavyweights in Younger Bastida and take Gaidali. You talk Bird and Chauver, Etchemendia and Mendez. Like, there's a lot of good matches there this weekend.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and you never know. You never know how kids are going to bounce back. You never know what that 5 or 6 months off season is like. Some guys get really good. Some guys get really bad. And so my point in saying that is just because it's not ones and twos, it's still good to get first looks at the number 7 guy.
Yeah, and you got Lucas Bird, who's an NCAA champ. You got Jesse Mendez, who's an NCAA champ. So you got some matches that it's not like all the ones and twos are gone. I mean, if you look at the rankings for the All-Star Classic right now versus what they could be at the end of the year, also like Zach Ryder, and as we go through Crystal Ball and go through each weight, like one of the storylines for me is Oklahoma State and their freshmen and how can their transfers and freshmen do. And like Zach Ryder, boom, big test right out of the gate this weekend with Jackson Smith. So apart from just ones and twos, like you were saying, how the 6-7s look, etc., matchups like that are super intriguing.
All right, well, let's jump in. We want to start at 125 in Crystal Ball?
Why don't we start at 125 in Crystal Ball?
Okay, pal. Let's start at 125 in Crystal Ball, and I have Luke Lillidahl. One of the first comments when this went up was, how do you have the guy that was third ahead of the guy that was first? Well, they're not rankings, they're predictions, and I predict Luke Lillidahl to win NCAAs this year. I have him 1 ahead of V-Rob and Spratley, last year's finalist. Eddie Van Treska was 5th last year. I have him 4th. Sheldon Seymour, who was Lillidahl's only loss last year in a really funky bout, I have him AA, and I do have Dean Peterson in there at the 6th spot. And then I have Jet Strickenberger, who I thought was going to go 33, but now it sounds like he's going to try 25 again, and we'll see. I think he's an interesting wrinkle, a blood rounder last year. And then Volk, who's coming back after being injured last year, transferring to Minnesota. Some good guys in the blood round. Steve O'Pullen was an All-American last year. Nicola Rivera was a blood round guy. Nico Provo coming back. So there's some depth there, too. And what you don't see maybe in that graphic, if you have it up, is a couple. I wanted to mention some of the other guys that aren't in the Crystal Ball that could play a factor. Mark Anthony McGowan, I don't have him in my top 16, but he was just 1 and 2 last year, but he was a freshman, and he dang near took out the champ in like round 1 or 2. So he could certainly be a factor. Whoever comes out of the Ohio State wrestle-off type deal,
which again, Clarion Open this weekend, those guys are all there. McCrowan, Bouzakis, so Davino. That's what I said, didn't I? McCronin. McCronin. All right. So, McCrone has some really good wins, and this is always a tough weight to handicap, especially the last, 4 or 5 years, where, everybody beats everybody. Mm-hmm. Last year, Lillidahl took 3rd, and I'm projecting him to be the champ. He had a loss to Dean Peterson last year. I think McCrone had a win over Peterson. And now, who knows if he's even going to start. McCrone can be a factor at this weight for sure. Bouzakis, I fully believe in Bouzakis, especially at 25, if the weight cut is not a problem. But then you get to Big Tens and you have to make it 3 days in a row. Well, really, 2 days in a row. If you make it to day 3, you placed. So, but can you hold it that long, right? So whoever comes out of there. Also,
Kyson Terrakina, he has all the talent in the world.
Yep.
He's now at North Carolina, and I think I'm not. Again, I didn't project him. I didn't predict him to do a whole lot. But if he does, he's worth a mention because he could get back on track and really be a disruptor. So there are some other guys.
I agree. And Willie, when I was looking the past couple of days, I've been kind of mapping out storylines for the season. And it's funny how many of the overarching storylines of this upcoming season you already see it this way. I look right off at the top. Obviously, a major storyline for the season. Can Penn State maintain its dominance? Look so. As we go through this and we get to the team scores at the end, we're going to see just how dominating of a year Penn State is poised to have. So it's like right out of the gate, 125, and they have a very serious title contender at 125. Another storyline for the season that we see right away. Lehigh, for me, is like they have such high expectations. You got Crookham coming back. You got that lightweight lineup that looks so tough. And right out of the gate, 25. How is Sheldon Seymour going to look this year? He had that overtime win against Lilidal in the semis at NCAAs, but then Lilidal bounces back and places third, Seymour sixth. So is that an outlier win versus Lilidal, or can Seymour really have a great season? And, you have him having a pretty good season at 5, but can he get higher? 2, 3, 4? Can he win it all? I think you're talking Lehigh's lightweight or Lehigh's team expectations, and right out of the gate here at 25, and we're seeing that play out. The expectations are high this year for Lehigh. What can Seymour do?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but the stars are kind of aligned. Penn State has a really good shot to do history type stuff. There is a hypothetical path, and when I do these, I don't do them with any I should put this guy higher to make sure they get their points, and this team should get this points, and I don't think I should put that guy that high because I don't do that. I just do what I think, and it worked. It worked out that I got 7, 8 Nittany Lions in the finals. Another trend was I have so many Nebraska and Iowa guys on that blood round bubble, either blood round or 7th, 8th placers. But if you look across the board at Penn State, for as much as they've had this track record of insane success, I don't know if this would match up to their best teams ever, but I think they might score the most points they ever did.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Luke has a chance. Luke has a shot at the finals at 25. Blaze, we're assuming Blaze is the 33. He has a shot at 33. 49, they have a shot. 57, they have a shot. 65, they are the clear favorite. 74, clear favorite. 97, number one guy. So, I'm not breaking any news here, but it is interesting in all of Penn State's success of the past 2 decades. They have a chance to score more points than they ever did.
Yeah, and even we'll get to it when we talk 49, but with Henson out this year, that opens the door for Van Ness to even potentially have more of a likelihood to win NCAAs when you take out the returning national champ.
The returning national champ graduated. The 2-time finalist is redshirted. Yep. And the weight, and we'll talk about that too when we get to 49, but the weight as a whole is not good.
Yeah. One more storyline that I have at 25, and then I'll save the rest as we go through. But last year, we saw one of the biggest team fall-offs year over year with Iowa State. And it was largely due to injuries. They placed fourth in 2024, and then they placed 27th last year. And again, they had a lot of injuries, so it wasn't just, Iowa State didn't perform good. There was a lot of injuries. This year,
A lot of injuries. Yeah.
this year they've really loaded up, and they've got transfers. They've got a strong squad. And I feel like right out of the gate at 25, you've got Steve O'Poulin, who he's got to contribute to the team. If you're an Iowa State fan and you want to see Iowa State get back top 4, top 5, they've got guys in the lineup like Poulin, like Rocky Elam, who have what it takes, I'd say, to get the job done as far as getting Iowa State back up to, 4th, 5th. But you're going to have to see performance, especially out of these transfers like Poulin and Elam.
Well, yeah. So they brought in 3 All-Americans. They brought in Poulin. They brought in Vinny Zerbin. And they brought in Rocky Elam to go along with getting Younger Bastida back, getting Echemendia back. They also brought in Isaac Dean, who was like blood round of 16. So they kind of fell apart last year, but they could be in for a really strong season. 133. Now this is, I think that 133 is one of the better weights in the country, with the most contenders and a whole lot of depth. I think it's fascinating in that you have I don't know if the list of contenders goes this deep in any way. With Ryan Crookham, who was 3rd 2 years ago, Marcus Blaze, who I have at number 2, and zero confidence in the order of these, really. Drake Ayala, 2-time finalist. Ben Davino, a really talented freshman that already has some impressive wins, albeit in freestyle. Lucas Bird, the returning champ, I have at 5. I love Lucas Bird. And if you're an Illinois fan or if you're a Lucas Bird fan, you're going to say that's bull. That's bull, Willie. Why do you do that? I just think it's a loaded weight class. I think a lot of his matches were nip and tuck last year, and I think it's really hard. It's going to be really hard to repeat in this bracket. Izan Fugit, who was 4th last year, basically caught fire at the end of the year. I have him 6th. Evan Frost. Evan Frost stumbled a little bit at the end of the year. I think he's much better than what he was. And he was blood round, right? So I'm not like, it's not a giant leap to have him 7th. But he was sick and or had a really bad cut for Big 12s. Lost a couple bad matches there. And then didn't AA after AA in the previous year. Jacob Van D was 7th last year. I have him 8th. There's one of those Nebraska kids that I think are right on the bubble. He'll have to be the guy like Tyler Knox, who he beat from the 7th place match, or Dylan Shawver, who was blood round and can beat basically anybody. Braxton Brown, Ethan Oakley, another Carolina transfer. Richie Figs, I'm being real conservative with, round of 16. It appears he's going to be starting up a weight. Dom Serrano, Zach Redding, another transfer, and Dylan Campbell for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, Willie, this weight to me really screams too. So if you go to, it's linked up in the description of this video and anywhere else you're watching or listening to this, but in Willie's crystal ball, it has what they did last year. And you're going to see a lot of INJ, meaning they were injured last year. And one of the biggest storylines to watch, especially early on as guys shake off the rust and get back in the mix, is how do guys perform who are coming off injury? Maybe this weight has the biggest question mark with Ryan Crookham. How is he going to look coming off injury? But, I mean, you have guys like Younger Bastida, Rocky Elam. We were just talking about Ohio State. Like, Ryan Crookham's another big one when you're talking guys coming off injury. Man, if there's a big difference here, if Ryan Crookham is what he was before he got injured, it's going to be a big question mark to watch.
He's really difficult to project for a number of reasons. You know, coming up through junior high and then freshman, sophomore year, on my big board, he was 1, 2, or 3 in high school. And then he had some weird stuff go on. He didn't compete much, and then he didn't compete at all his senior year, I think, or maybe junior year. And so I put him at 20 in my final big board. because it was really tough to assess him. And he comes out 2 years ago and he beats Vito Araju twice. He looked like a title contender. He was a title contender. He finished third. Now, how healthy was Vito at the time? How healthy is Ryan now after a year in which he had to miss because of injury? There's a lot of factors that go in there. And is he better than national champ Lucas Bird? Is he? I mean, he placed higher a couple years ago when they were in the same bracket. Is he better than Marcus Blaze, who's a phenom? I don't know. Time will tell, but I think they're in that range, right? I think that range is about right. And the thing about Crookham is he's so dang hard to score on. He got rubber knees and but so is Blaze, and it's not so much because of Blaze's rubber knees, but because his sound defense.
Yep.
You know, these top five, I don't know, sort of toss them up and
Is this
put
one
them
of
in the
your
order you
least?
want.
Is this one of your least confident weights picking the top 5 order?
Yeah, this and like probably
84.
this and maybe probably 84.
Yeah. Yeah, I had said that 184 was the weight of the year, and I don't even think it's close, and we'll talk about why when we get to 84, but 33
Well,
and 41 definitely have compelling arguments for how interesting they're going to be this year.
yeah, 84 is really, really crazy because 7 of my top 12 are freshman or sophomore.
There's a lot
How
of
insane is
storylines
that?
in 84. It's insane.
How insane is that? Okay, 141. Didn't do anything crazy here. Same as last year. Mendez over Hardy at 1 and 2. I got Luke Stanich at 3. Etchemendy I put in at 4. Zeth Romney coming up from 133. I have 5. I really like him. And with these weight changes, you never know. Like just the same with Buzakis going down, some of these guys going up. How will Nasir Bailey do going up? How will Jordan Williams do going up? How will Zeth Romney do going up? It's always will they adjust to the weight? Will they be a little undersized? Does their style each weight class has a sort of style, and will they be better because now they're not cutting? All these things go into it, and that's something we learn as the season goes on. But Romney 5, CJ Composto. I'm going to be honest. I'm not in love with him, but he always gets it done. So I have him at 6, Vance Vombauer 7. He was 8th last year. Then I have freshman Seth Mendoza at the 8 spot. I really believe in him. Blood round guys. Ragusan, Davis, Bailey, and Vega. Another true freshman, Sergio Vega. Another interesting thing about 141. Listen to my top 8. Excuse me, top 12. Stanich, up 2 weights. Romney, up 1 weight. Mendoza, true freshman. Ragusan, up 1 weight. Davis, up 2 weights in 2 years. Nasir Bailey, up a weight. Sergio Vega, true freshman. 7 of the top 12 are either up a weight or are freshmen. Crazy.
Yeah, that is. And when you look at this weight, Willie, this is another one when you talk about, we talked about Zach Ryder, right? And how Oklahoma State has a lot of questions in their lineup. And Sergio Vega, a true freshman, like you just said, how is he going to perform this year? Oklahoma State fans have such high expectations right now after everything David Taylor has done in the last calendar year. And, they had about as an exciting of an NCAA tournament as one could possibly write. You couldn't script a better tournament than how it ended up going for Oklahoma State. And it's going to be fun watching these true freshmen, redshirt freshmen in the lineup and seeing how they do. I'm really excited for Sergio Vega.
Well, one thing that you'll see as we go through this is I put Vega in. I put Robideau in.
Yeah.
I think that and D Lock is definitely starting, and they both won their wrestle offs, Robideau and Vega, and I think with what I think they need the freshmen to
Yeah.
have the year that they won. Number one, and number two, I think that they have so much talent coming in, so much talent coming in. What are you saving them for? So you can have them in 5 years from now? Um, you're getting more talent in. You're not gonna start your best guys, and I believe David will do that.
Yeah. And 141 too, when you look at it, it's funny. It's one of those weights where even your, let me pull it up real quick on the screen because I only pulled up the top 8. When you look at the guys who are blood round of 16, honorable mention guys, there's so many guys who the ceiling is so high. Look at Dylan Ragusin. What can he do for Michigan? Braden Davis, he won Big Tens as what, a true freshman? Nasir Bailey and what he did at Little Rock. We just talked Sergio Vega. Pearson Manville is a freak in freestyle. Can he do that in folk style? Joey Oliveri. When you talk Rutgers, they had a very disappointing NCAAs. What can Shaver and Oliveri specifically, 33-41, those guys, what can they do? They have a high ceiling. So this weight for me, not just the top 8, but when you look at your blood round guys and your under 16 guys and even honorable mention guys, I feel like there's just so much potential here for guys to hit a much higher ceiling than where they're maybe placed in crystal ball.
Yeah, it's a really great weight. 33, 41. You're going to see coming up, there's some weights that just fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
As great as 84 is, it's super young, and two, it falls off a cliff. 49 is not good. 49's, I'm sorry. It's not a good weight class at all. But let's check the chat. All right, we got 3 weights in. Let's check the chat. McGowan almost beat the NCAA champ. Yeah, I said that. V-Rob early. Nip and tuck. Willie has 6 or 7 Penn State guys in the finals. I think you're crazy if you don't.
I was just going to say, who doesn't? Even the biggest Penn State haters, you're probably going to hate that Penn State has that many guys favored to make the finals. But you really can't ignore it. I mean, you can be bearish if you want, but, 6, 7 guys isn't really a homer take.
I'm big stock down on Nasir. That's not me saying that. Larry Steele said that. He had a wonky loss early. It wasn't a bad loss. It was just a loss that you didn't expect. And then he got back on track. He looked good. Won Pac-12s in a weight that had Seth Romney, who finished, I don't know, 3rd or 4th. 3rd. Now he's up a weight. He's in a different room. I don't know. I don't know what to make in this year. I was cautious. I was subdued. I don't have Nasir as high as some Iowa people would have him probably. I don't have Jordan Williams as high as some people would probably have him. I'm always a little, unless they have a track record of like, I'm always a little early on. I am conservative with guys who move up a weight.
Yeah.
And they are big. Well, when we get to the team race part, those are 2 big cogs. I mean, if Nasir Bailey ends up AAing, nobody sneezes at it. If Jordan Williams ends up AAing, nobody bats an eye. So those are big. When you're looking at crystal ball and you're looking at projections, team scores at the end of the year, where can Iowa make gains? It's right there with those 2. Cornell Kevin says Vince Cornella tech pinned everyone at U23s, including Composto, with all takedowns. I know. I love me some Vince Cornella, but he's been he's been injury plagued. He's not coming back till second semester. There's plenty of time to move him up. Um, I kind of want to. I kind of wanted to move Composto down, move Cornella up, but it's freestyle. There's plenty of time to do it to make those moves later. Um, Everyone seems to agree that Ono is redshirting. That seems to be the case. 157 is just as stacked as 133. I don't believe so. Clearing open in 3 days. Yeah, baby. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's go to 149, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's go to 149. 149 is pulled up on the screen. Willie, do the rundown.
All right, number 1, Shane Van Ness. I have Lachlan McNeil 2 and Ethan Styles 3. They are the only returning All-Americans in the weight class. Van Ness was 3rd, McNeil 5th, Styles 6th. Pinheiro Johnson last year was round of 16. Swiderski AA'd 2 years ago at 141. Aiden Valencia, I have 6th. I don't know. He's a big question mark to me. Chance Lamer 7, and Bash pushed in about that. He said that's a Nebraska homer take. Caleb Larkin 8. Cross Wizlewski in the blood round with Jackson Joy, Jack Joffrey, and Cade Brown. The round of 16ers I have are Caleb Rachi, David Evans, Ryder Block, and Willie McDougald. And I'll tell you, I hate this weight. It falls off a cliff. There's absolutely no sure things. Even Van Ness at 1 has been prone to some upsets. I mean, even his freshman year, I mean, he went from like a barn burner rally against, I don't know who it was. It was not like somebody great. He was down like a ton of points and came back and then had another close match and then damn near beat Yanni. So he can go from being in a scare with the number 25 guy to damn near beating a goat, right? So I think I have Van Ness as the head of the class, but I don't think that's, carved in stone. I don't think he's a lock. And look, 3 All-Americans. Pinheiro Johnson, round of 16 last year. If you look at his ledger, it's like overtime with this guy, overtime with that guy. He can beat anybody, but can he survive enough one takedown bouts to get all the way on the podium? Casey Swiderski, new weight.
And again, talking about for Swiderski, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, like guys coming off injury, how are they going to look? Swiderski's one of those guys too. Like, how's he going to look coming off injury?
I mean, there's not too many weights where I have a guy projected to finish 5th and I have no confidence in it. The only confidence I have in like Casey Swiderski 5th or Aiden Valencia 6th, I have no confidence in Aiden Valencia 6th. He could make the finals or he could go 2-2. The only shred of confidence I have is that the weight lacks anybody else. If you look at Chance Lamer had a good year 2 years ago. Actually, his year last year wasn't bad. It's just the season end, the NCAA tournament wasn't good. And Caleb Larkin, talented as all get out, but he's really been injury prone. We haven't seen a whole lot of him in folk, and he is clearly, there's enough data there to say he's much better in freestyle than he is in folk. So, how does that play in? Cross Wazlewski had an excellent year last year. I love him, but he was a guy that he beat everybody he was supposed to. He didn't really have a signature win, right? He didn't beat the creme de la creme.
Well, and that's why I pushed back for as much as I was saying Husker Willie when we were going through this. I had said, I'm like, Cross doesn't have a big win. That if you're looking at Chance, Caleb, and Cross as far as like 7th, 8th, and 1's blood round, I do agree that Chance Lamer, you got to give Nebraska some credit where due for the incredible tournament they just had. So if you're putting those 3 guys in a pool and picking one to the highest, I'd say I'm going with Nebraska and giving them the edge. Caleb Larkin, I think, has a lot of expectations. And like you said, Cross just didn't have – I don't think he had a top 20 win last year. So while he had a good year in beating the guys that he was supposed to beat, he did not have a huge win. And you got to have a couple of those if you want to get on the podium in March.
Yeah. No, the match I'm referring to at Shane Van Ness where he had to, like, dig deep is Ethan Miller. He ended up pinning him, but he was that match was crazy. And then the other match, you're right, it might have been Panero Johnson that was real close. But, yeah. Any way you slice it, I mean, it's really weird in that these guys are not – they don't give you the confidence to say, yeah, that's an All-American, no doubt. 100%. But on the flip side, the weight is so thin that who else are you going to put up there?
Right. Yeah, you can kind of make the argument for both sides of that.
Now, which by necessity kind of makes you want to discuss guys that aren't in. Because, listen, Caleb Rachi, David Evans, Ryder Block, these are guys that didn't qualify last year. Willie McDougald was 1 and 2. He's another guy, a lot like Panero Johnson, to a lesser extent. But Willie McDougald could beat just about anybody. He's in these matches that are always overtime. So I don't know, but you think about Kelvin Griffin from Lehigh, C.J. Hamblin, who was in the Pac-12 finals last year at 157. Now he's down at 149 because Joel Adams is there. Josh Edmonds, Sam Cartella, who had a solid freshman year. He only went 0-2 at the dance, but he had a solid freshman year. Coy Biskins, who real talented, coming out of high school. Hasn't hit his stride yet, but in a weight like this, if Biskins emerges, not real surprising. Even a guy like Drew Roberts from Minnesota. I mean, you had to feel for him because he was just taking his lumps last year. But he's a hard worker. He's talented. He lives a life. And listen, if he is a big factor this year, I am not surprised. Given the composition of this weight.
Yeah. And by the way, now's probably a good time. You were working on NCAA betting odds and lines, and I don't know if we'll get to them today, but one of them that I put a graphic out for last night was Iowa over under 6 All-Americans. And there were some people saying, well, it should be 5.5. Well, 6 is what makes it such an interesting proposition. Could they have more or less than 6? You can't say 6. And here's a weight where if you're going to take that over in Iowa's All-Americans, Ryder Block, or if Jordan Williams ends up being the guy at 49, this is a weight where Iowa can outperform, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise anybody because, number one, that's Iowa, and number two, in a weaker weight, it's a good weight for Iowa to have a lower guy because the ceiling's so high. If you're an Iowa fan, you want to get your guys on the podium, and it's I'd rather have a guy like Ryder Block in a weak weight than have I don't know if I'm saying this right. I'd rather have a weight like this where the ceiling's so much higher than he is in crystal ball versus a weight that's so much stronger. If you're gonna have a guy who's round of 16-ish, let it be a weight like this. You have a very high ceiling because anything can happen.
Yeah, yeah. Elder Brad said the line should be 6.5, not a whole number. I disagree. I thought it through. Um, you can't win if it's six. You can't win if it's six. You got to make a commitment. You bet on six, and it's a push. Um, well, actually, how would they score that? They would score the push, right? Over under six, and it get hit six. It's a push.
So if
So you
you
got to make
go,
you got to make a commitment. You got to say seven, or you got to say under, and it's five.
yeah, and 6, nobody wins.
All right.
Most over unders, though, I agree. You're not necessarily gonna. Either way, I listen. The point of the fact of the matter is, I think the line of over 6 or under 6 gets rid of the easy answer of 6, which seems like it's the most likely. So if you can't take 6, would you rather take 7 or 5?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Halfway point. 157. I have PJ Duke starting for Penn State and winning the whole thing over Antrell Taylor in the finals. Meyer Shapiro third, Daniel Cardenas fourth. I think that's an excellent, excellent top five or top four. You have a phenom in PJ Duke who beat Antrell Taylor in freestyle this summer. Antrell Taylor, the returning national champ. Meyer Shapiro, and then Daniel Cardenas, who split bouts last year or the past couple years. And then I have Landon Robideau fifth, right ahead of Ty Waters. Ty Waters coming off a red shirt. I could be selling Ty Waters a little short. He's up away and off injury, so double cause for pause there. Brandon Cannon is my 7 and Jackson Arrington 8. Great group in the blood round. I have Cannon Webster, who was blood round also last year at 149. Rafael Hippolito, Jordan Williams, who was also blood round at 149, and Charlie Millard of Minnesota, who redshirt and a pretty good redshirt. You know, I messed up here. I really undersold Vinny Zerbin. He should be higher. He should probably either be in the 7-8 spot or at least blood round. He was 6 last year. Excellent wins. Senior, he's getting a different look at Iowa State, returning All-American same way. I screwed that up. Vinny Zerbin should be higher.
Yeah, I missed that too. I agree. I do think he should be higher as well.
But a good, fun, competitive weight here. I think it's solid top to bottom. I have Gavin Drexler all the way down in the round of 16. He was an All-American last year at 149. Jude Swisher, a blood round guy, returning blood round. I have him round of 16. So, and then Ethan Miller also in the blood round. And, it's really interesting when we get to team scores again, but I'll bring it up now. Virginia Tech, we're big Virginia Tech. We love Virginia Tech. We
love Virginia Tech. Jared Frayer, shout out Jared.
Right, we talk about them all the time on here and how much we love the program and how much we love the coaching staff. But this is going to be a tough rebuild year. They're going to end up, I think. Now they won't like me saying this because they'll say, "Hey, we're going to coach them up and they're going to hit the podium." But there's a chance that they finish way down in the standings, because they have Van Tresca, and then they have a lot of, I don't know what we're going to get. Go through their lineup. Van Tresca is a returning AA. Then you have Dylan Campbell in there. I did a fantasy draft the other night, and I have no 133. It's a dynasty league, right? And I had Nasir Bailey, so I was all good. And then now he's going up. I have no real 33-pounder. And so in the later rounds, I took Dylan Campbell, and somebody made the comment like, "Oh, well, he might not even start. Why are you taking him?" And I said, "Well, who's going to start then?" And they said, "Well, maybe Seidel." And I said, "Yeah, he could, but I think they're going." I would let Seidel mature and start him next year, because starting him this year, they ain't getting on the team as a podium this year. I don't care if Seidel wins the whole tournament. Um, but you go Vantreska, Campbell, probably not going to be an All-American. 41 Crook, maybe, but that weight's loaded. 49 Caleb Henson redshirting. 57, I don't even
Ethan
know who they
Miller.
got. Ethan Miller. 65.
Mac Church.
I'm Mac. No, they're bringing Burton down. He's a true freshman. And then at the end of the lineup, you have Sonny Sasso, who's never been to a tournament, and Jimmy Mullen, two young guys. So it's going to be a good, exciting team to watch, but there's a possibility that they have a low point total.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they kind of, when you make the decision to redshirt Henson and you start looking at, we don't really graduate many kids, if any, this year. We got Bo Bassett coming in next year. They're really thinking about next year. So I don't know how high their expectations are this year. Of course, they want to get their guys in the podium, and they're going to do their best to coach them up. But it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Jay Hill says Robidoux Cardenas November 7th and Gallagher Iba. Really? That's a great one. We're going to go bonkers with all the juicy matchups. I already put, if you're subscribed to Rockfin, there's an article I put up a couple weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago, about my favorite almost guaranteed, semi-guaranteed matches at national duels. Either round one or round two, and there's so many good ones. I mean, there's returning national finals matches. Lucas Bird, Drake Ayala. There's another one in there too, like first or second round. But go look that up. But as we get closer, we're really gonna highlight them.
Yeah, one more note at 57 too before we go to 65. This weight for me, like one of the things that jumped out was Meyer, and can he and will he stay healthy this year? Cornell has not had the best luck as of recent with injuries, and I'm very curious. Already we know the first semester is not going to look like Cornell, but second semester, what will this squad look like if they're healthy? And obviously Meyer being healthy plays a huge part in how interesting this weight is, because a healthy Meyer really makes NCAAs in the postseason look very different.
They were talking about it on Twitter. Somebody yesterday posted a graphic of 74 kilograms in 2028, and it had a picture of Duke and Mesenbrink and this guy and that guy, David Carr, and they said, whoever the USA rep is, they're in good hands. And somebody replied and said, no Meyer Shapiro. And then somebody replied back, bro, what? Like, he ain't the same guy. And, he had a slip-up match his freshman year. He had a wonky, he was sick and hurt last year and took fifth. But when Meyer is clicking, he is about as
good as it gets when he's on.
It's poetry, and let's all hope that we get to see the best version of Meyer sometime. Cornell's another one that's really going to be tough to handicap, maybe all season long, and you're only going to get a couple guys back. I mean, hell, we might not see Greg D, Brett Unger, Meyer Shapiro, Vince Cornella. We might not see all those guys till second semester. And Mikey Delegata was going 84, but he had surgery, so he's out for the year. And so Cornell's going to be – we're going to have to really wait till the second semester and probably deep into the second semester, like February, to really get a grip on where they're at.
Yeah.
65. No surprise, Mitch Mesenbrink and Mikey Caliendo, 1, 2. D. Lockett, I have 3. I think he's that good, and that's no disrespect to Joey Blaze or Hunter Garvin, who I have at 4 or 5. But I got D up there. I think he can. I think he can go with Garvin, go with Blaze, go with Caliendo. I'm not sure if he can go with Mesenbrink right now, but I think he's in that tier. The 2 through 6 tier. Ryder Downey up a weight. I really like his top game, and again, you never know what you're going to get when you change weights, but I think he fits a 65 kind of style and mold. Matty Bianchi also up a weight. AA last year took 7th at 57. Peyton Keller off an injury and transferring to Oklahoma. I have him 8th. A pretty interesting group in the blood round gang. Braden Scholes, who was also blood round last year. Max Brignola, who came out of nowhere for Lehigh last year in the redshirt season and had fantastic results. LJ Araju, 2-time bronze at Junior Worlds. Both losses, I believe, were to Zach Ryder. And, it's weird how that works, right? Like, LJ Araju and Zach Ryder, they met at Junior Worlds. They met at Junior Pan Ams. They met at Junior Worlds again. And then Zach Ryder's going 84 and LJ's going 65.
It's crazy.
So kind of weird. Ryan Burton, who spent a lot of his time the last 2 years in high school as my number 1 ranked 175 pounder, I believe, is going down to 165. So that's interesting. True freshman there for Tech. And then we go with a bunch of guys that are just old vets and capable of doing things, but they're not really spectacular. Andrew Sparks, Max Mayfield, Nico Ruiz. I did make there is one thing I would like to change here. I have Lou Sergio in at my last spot, round of 16. You know who I want to put in there? I want to flip that out. I think NC State's Will Denny is a real problem. He's listed as a starter on WrestleStat. I think he's a dog. I think he's talented. He's tough. I think he's built kind of that mindset for college wrestling. I know he's a true freshman, but I really like him. I think there's a chance. You never know with incoming freshmen, but I think there's a chance he could make some noise. This is a guy that went to Super 32 last year, and back-to-back, he beat one Super 32 champ. He beat another Super 32 champ named Melvin Miller, and then he won in the finals. So that's how good that kid is.
Hey, 157, Cody Chittum. What do you think? I noticed he wasn't.
No idea. I didn't have him in my crystal ball. He didn't wrestle a lot this summer. Not sure where he's at, what to make of him,
Yeah.
I mean, I know where he's at, but I don't know where he's at in his progress.
Yeah, physically he's at Chattanooga.
Physically, he's at Chattanooga. Other guys interesting outside of the bubble, looking in. Andrew Barbosa from Rutgers. So I saw somebody in the chat mention Harrer. He's supposed to redshirt. Gunnar Filipowicz, Tyler Lillard, another one of those old vets. Noah Mulvaney, Patty Gallagher, and Ty Wayland from Princeton. Up 2 weights.
Yeah, 65 is going to be a fun way. You got a couple of guys up. You got Joey Blaze up. Joey Blaze to me is one of the – there's a lot of cool storylines here. Like, on paper, this is Mesenbrink next topic, but there are some cool storylines here. Can Caliendo do something to get over the hump with Mesenbrink? What will D. Lockett do? True freshman, high expectations. Joey Blaze made the finals last year at 57. What is he going to do up a weight? Ryder Downey up a weight. Like, this is a fun weight.
Yeah, and he had – wasn't Blaze third on the Did he make the national team? I mean, he had a good
Yeah, I
freestyle
think so.
season,
I think he won at Final
and
X.
he might. There's a guy who I think the weight up might be good for, because I think he was pulling pretty hard for 57.
Yeah.
So we might even see an uptick in performance from him. 174, Levi Haynes, the clear cut. He might be the stone cold lead pipe. Is he the biggest favorite? I guess him or Mesenbrink, right?
Yeah, you got to assume one of those is the biggest. Caliendo's probably a lot closer with Messenbrink, even though Messenbrink's really, if I remember correctly, didn't Caliendo kind of close the gap a little bit? What was the
I don't know. I mean, there was a match where it
8-2 at
was
NCAA's? Yeah, I mean,
kind of closer, but I don't know if that's closing the gap or just one match. I don't know.
that's
For it
right.
to be
Blaze was
closing the
fourth.
gap.
Bashada's saying in the chat, Blaze lost at Final X. That's right. So he finished fourth.
But Haynes won. Simon Ruiz, I have two, a sophomore from Cornell. He was fifth last year. Minto, I have three. He was fourth at 165. He was another one pulling really hard, for 65. I don't think it was lightning in a bottle. I think he is that dude. And so you'll see him, and you're gonna say Willie's loves Nebraska, and that's why he's put. That's not why. It's not why. I just think he's that dude. Could be wrong. If he places seventh, he places seventh. But I think he's a tier above. Now I have Karchla at 4, who was 0-2, and you're going to say, Willie, what are you crazy? He was 0-2 at NCAAs, and you have him ahead of Kennedy, who was 4th. Karchla beat him twice during the season. I just think Karchla was beat up, banged up, and wasn't himself at NCAAs. He beat him 2 weeks before at Big Tens. Cam Steed also coming up from 165, where he was 5th in the country last year. Alex Facundo to 7, Maddie Singleton to 8. And it's a really deep group here. The blood round guys, Wask was an All-American. I have him in the blood round. Lenny Pinto was blood round. Bo Mantanona was blood round. Lorenzo Norman only went 1-2, but he had wins over Pinto, wins over Wask, wins over a bunch of guys. So really good depth here. Then you got Garrett Thompson, Jared Sima, Nick Hamilton, who was blood round, Luca Augustine, who was blood round. Pretty good depth there. Other guys on the outside, Desianti from Tech, Olgin is back. MJ Gatan, Nick Fine after a gray shirt year, and Brody Conley.
174, the first weight of crystal ball that you do not have a guy coming off injury making the podium. Fun fact.
It's the first what?
I'm just realizing it's the first weight you don't have somebody on the podium who came off of injury. The first
really?
6 weights all had guys coming off injury making the podium. This is the first weight. You do have a did not qualify in Facundo. But yeah.
How do you think Facundo's going to do? I mean, the way
I think he's going to do. I would say expectations have to be high. I think the fact that you have David Taylor, Alex Facundo, Zach Ryder all kind of reuniting, I think there's probably a bit of let's show Penn State. Like Facundo, I don't think Facundo left on bad terms. I think Zach Ryder probably did, but I think those guys definitely, this is their time to shine. And I think David Taylor definitely is, I said this months ago, I think David is definitely going to want to prove himself with guys like Facundo and Ryder. And, David's as competitive as anybody out there. And so I think if he can take a guy from Penn State and make him even better, like I really have high expectations for both Facundo and Ryder this year. Very high expectations.
Well, I mean, I know they want to win, but I don't know. The thing with Facundo is his offense, and not even his offense, but like finishing his shots, because he can always get in, but can you get in on a shot that you can convert? Um, and he's up a weight now. It'll be really interesting. I was thinking about it. I can't imagine like what a match looks like. Lenny Pinto and Alex Facundo. It's just so weird to think about. Um, because Facundo's so meat and potatoes, and Pinto's such a knucklehead and does anything. Like that could go any number of which ways. Like Pinto could throw him on his head, or Pinto could try to do a bunch of stuff, and Facundo would just be positionally sound and just pick him apart. Same thing with Bo Mantanona, who's a little unconventional. Um,
It is funny too when you talk about Facundo, Lenny Pinto, the fact that a year ago that would have been a Penn State Rutgers match, now it's an Oklahoma State.
oh yeah,
Or it would have been Penn State Nebraska, now it's Oklahoma State Rutgers.
no, we are not in agreement. Let's check the chat. Let's check this chat. Haynes, hell of a summer. Yep, can't get much better. Is Carson K healthy? I don't know. Who the hell knows?
I honestly thought he was graduating.
What was? I had Simon Ruiz 28 on the big board. We knew about Simon Ruiz. Stop it. I can't believe Carson Karchla is still in college. None of us can. Steed versus Kennedy, Natty Duels first round. Love it. If Zach and Alex don't AA, will that be viewed as a failure? I don't think so. One's a freshman and the other is like fourth year of college and he's never AA'd.
I would say, hold on with Ryder and Facundo. I would argue the bar is All-American. I would definitely view Ryder and Facundo, all things considered, as a miss. It's a miss if they don't AA. I definitely think so.
I don't know. I think we'd have to. I think we'd have to see how. Like if you're telling me like Facundo was in the blood round and got beat by Camp Steed, I don't know if that's a giant failure. If you're telling me,
well, who did he lose to in the first one? You're saying like you got to lose to what? 2 podium guys to not make the podium?
Well, no, you could lose to anybody, but
no, I know, but I'm saying like
let's say he's in a quarterfinal. Let's just say he's the 8 seed, and he loses to Levi Haynes in a quarter, and then he drops down and he has Minto or Kennedy or Bo Mantanona. And he loses in the blood round. I'm not going to say that's a giant failure.
Well, I don't know if it's a giant failure, but I would say he underperformed. I think Facundo's an AA guy. I think Ryder's an AA guy. I think if they don't AA, I think that's an underperforming year for sure. I think the bar is AA for those guys. Comment on Twitter.
I mean, I have him 7th, but like, who are you saying he's a lock to beat?
I don't know that. Like, if you're talking,
would you pick him against Haynes?
No.
Would you pick against Ruiz?
Maybe.
Would you pick him against Minto?
Maybe.
Absolutely not. Would you pick him against Karchla? That's a terrible style matchup. No way.
What's Carson done at NCAAs?
He's AA'd.
Okay, what did he do last year?
Would you take him against Kennedy?
I don't know. I don't know how Facundo looks right now.
Absolutely not. Not with their history. he's not a lock to AA.
I I think you're misinterpreting being expected to AA and being a lock to AA. I would say like the top four guys are, I would consider like if you have a guy top four in your crystal ball, I would say that's a lock for AA. I would say the bottom four guys, 5 through 8, AA is the expectation. I think the top four should be a lock. I'd say the bottom four is more of an expectation than a lock to AA. That's how I kind of look at it.
All I'm saying is if he loses to Steed or Singleton or Wask or Pinto or Mantanona in the blood round, I don't think it's that earth.
You may be right. You may be right. I think Facundo going to have a great year at Oklahoma State. I really do.
I hope he does. I love the kid. And I want to see him. You know, listen, he tried 57. He's a little too big for that. He was stuck behind monsters at Penn State, right? So I'd like to see him get on the podium. 184. This is a really weird weight. Max Mickinelli is my 1, Angelo Ferrari the 2, and you can all fight it out in the chat and everywhere else. But I'm going with Mickinelli. He's already been to the dance, took third, had Carter dead to rights once. Right now, I'll take Mickinelli. Ferrari 2, Welsh 3, Ryder 4. How about that in a third, fourth match? That'd be fun.
I love this weight.
Aiden Sinclair 5, Silas Allred 6th. He was 7th last year. Jackson Smith 7th. He was 6th last year. Brock Mantanona going up a weight or two. A freshman I have taken 8th. Dylan Fishback, Aiden Bruneau, Isaac Dean, Eddie Nietenbach are my blood round guys. And then, frankly, it falls off a cliff. I have Brian Soldano involved. Shane Walsh, Aaron Azaroff, Brian Soldano, Sam Goen. And then I really like I'm really interested to see CJ Woolrath from Northern Iowa. Had to spend his time behind Parker Keckeisen, but if you look, I mean, I'm not doing like the vibe thing, but Drew Foster won a national title at Northern Iowa at 184 pounds. Taylor Lujan was the number 1 seed at 184 pounds for Northern Iowa the year that NCAAs were canceled. Parker Keckeisen, 5-time AA national champ at Northern Iowa at 184 pounds. Maybe there's something going here. CJ Woolrath, maybe you can keep that tradition going. But my top 12 here at 184, 7 of them.
This is crazy.
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of my top 8 are freshmen. 6 of the 8 are sophomore or freshmen. No, yeah. Yep.
Crazy.
No, 4, yeah. Mickinelli and Welsh are sophomores, and there's 3 other that are freshmen. Just insanely young weight.
It is, and I think it's going to be so fun for more than one reason. I think on the surface, obviously, I mean, Max McNelly had about as great of a year as you could have had last year. You know, it felt all year like we were building to Carter and Parker, again, the same way he started the season out, and that was kind of like a foregone conclusion. That's what we were going to get. And Max was right there, looking about as dominant as anybody. He's such a great kid, too. I had him on the podcast after NCAAs. Go back and watch that.
Great kid.
Go back and watch that, and you'll have a hard time not rooting for him this year. But, like, you not only have so much loaded talent, Max has already proven himself, then you have Angelo Ferrari, Rocco Welch, Zach Ryder, Aiden Sinclair, such a fun crop of guys. And you also have so many storylines behind those guys because you have the whole drama with Rocco going to Penn State, Ryder leaving Penn State and going to Oklahoma State and reuniting with David Taylor. So you have that Penn State Oklahoma State underlying rivalry, kind of maybe the biggest weight of the year, where there's a Penn State Oklahoma State focus. There's a focus in other weights, but that for me is probably the biggest one, given how everything went down. And then even like Angelo Ferrari in Iowa, and it's, he's got very high expectations. And will Gabe Arnold pop up somewhere between 84 and 74? You got Sinclair, who's proven himself in some big matches. Now how can he do? Like, this weight is just so fun. I agree that it does kind of fall off a cliff after a while, but I think the top 8, top 10 guys are going to keep it interesting all year long. And I think even though it's one of those weights where, yes, it's really, let's look at the top 8 guys, top 10 guys all year as like the main focus because of how big the storylines are. But I feel like we're going to see a lot of those matchups. I mean, early on, we could get Ryder Ferrari at National Duels. We could get that in 2 weeks. So, this weight is just going to be so fun. And I think not just the talent, but the storylines. I don't think there's a weight with bigger storylines than this one for sure.
Willie, being a hard worker and living the right lifestyle doesn't guarantee you anything pertaining to Drew Roberts. Yeah, I know. You can be a saint. You can do all the work. And still not hit the podium. But it helps. What I think when you see at 84, though, is I think we see like the top, and I could be wrong on this because they're so young. But I think they probably pick apart everybody else, and then when they hit, we're going to see some really tight matches. Look at the guys. Mickinelli, not so much. He scores pretty good, but Ferrari, he's known for his defense. Zach Ryder, he's not an offensive juggernaut. Aiden Sinclair, I don't know if it's just because it's freestyle, but that dude never shoots. So I think we might see a lot of low-scoring matches amongst those guys, amongst that group. But anyway, it's an awesome, intriguing weight class, and you're gonna make. What's interesting too is they're all so young that you're gonna be making like these sweeping judgments, like if Ferrari wins, you're gonna be like, he's a 4-timer. If Aiden Sinclair comes out and wins this whole bracket, you're gonna be like, he could be a 4-timer, because he's gonna be dealing with the same group for the next couple years.
Angelo Ferrari, Iowa last year sat some of their guys to, there was some load management talks last year, right, with Gabe Arnold and others. And I'm curious, Angelo Ferrari's schedule this year, even just talking duels, he's got Aiden Sinclair, he's got Isaac Dean, he's got Rocco Welch, he's got Silas Allred, he's got Max McAnally, Dylan Fishback, Brock Mantanona, Zach Ryder. Like, his schedule this year, wow. If we see all those matches, like, who knows if Iowa throws out Gabe Arnold for one or this or that, but, if we see Angelo wrestle all those matches, I mean, he's going to hit almost every guy in the top 6, top 7.
That's a really good point. Even if he wrestles 6 of the 8,
right,
we're going to know who he is. We're going to know if he's consistent. We're going to know if he's dominant. We're going to have all the data we need.
Yeah.
197. I have Josh Barr as my national champ, runner-up last year.
Finally on board with me.
Over Justin Rademacher, who redshirted last year, was a junior world team member. This year, Rocky Elam, coming off of injury, I have as my 3. And, I think Rocky...
loves Emily.
A fully motivated, clicking on all cylinders healthy Rocky Elam could win this weight. But we haven't seen him in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Novak, fantastic. Breakout year last year. Returning fifth. Stephen Little, I have at 5. He was 6th. Max Stout, I have him in order. 5, 6, 7, 8 from last year. Novak, Little, Stout, McDaniel, and I have DJ Parker, who was Blood Round, as my number 8 guy. Blood Round, I have Bennett Berge coming up a weight. Cody Merrill, who just lost a wrestle off. I don't care. I stayed with him. Seth Shoemate was Blood Round. I have him in the Blood Round again. Evan Bates, now at Missouri, also in the Blood Round. My round of 16, Gabe Solers, Masoma and Dean, now at Iowa. Gavin Nelson, Sonny Sasso.
Not bullish on Dean making the switch to D1, huh?
No. No, I mean, I think you could. I mean, that being said, can he beat Cam McDaniel? Yeah. Could he take 7th? Yeah. I'm not going to pick him in that top tier, though.
It'll be interesting to watch. I haven't.
Yeah, and Dean. I will say, and Dean. If Andine gets into the next, he could get into the Blood Round kind of tier.
November for Iowa fans, you're gonna get a good look at Andine. In obviously it's always early when you talk November matchups, but how about this three week stretch? I don't know who he's gonna see at the national duels, but I think they start with Missouri, right? So we're guaranteed likely to see him and Evan Bates. And then the following week they have Pittsburgh. You're going to see him against Max Stout. And then the following week they have Iowa State. You could see Rocky Elam. So there's 3 good guys, Evan Bates, Max Stout, Rocky Elam, that he could see November. And we could get a very quick glance at what Dean looks like against the top D1 guys.
That's actually a good point. Because it's possible that Dean could make jumps by the end of the year. Because you're wrestling this D3 competition, then you go to D1, and you maybe take a loss, and then you make some ground up, and you're getting this D1 competition constantly. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Dean have like 6, 7 losses, and then by Big Tens, NCAAs, he's beating some of the guys that beat him.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk like come January, he's going to. And these are all potential matchups, but you're going to see potentially Josh Barr, Camden McDaniel, Gavin Nelson, Seth Shoemate, Cody Merrill. Like you're going to see these matches. And I saw that Dynasty Defined tweeted yesterday about they wish Penn State had a more difficult schedule or something. And I don't know about you when you look at a schedule, but when I look at a schedule, I'm not really looking at what the team's dual meet schedule is. I go right to WrestleStat because you look at a guy like Angelo Ferrari, like Dean, and forget what Iowa's schedule looks like on paper. I want to go see the matchups because, the first thing I saw when it's like, I wish they wrestled a more difficult schedule or whatever. Well, it's like, well, if you break it down to individual guys, like I remember last year, around this time for Josh Barr saying, hey, Willie, we're going to find out how good Josh Barr is. He's going to hit this guy and Beard and this guy and that guy. So it's like so many times, I understand looking at a schedule, and I don't know if that was really just wanting to see Penn State, Oklahoma State. Like, we all want to see that duel. But I don't know that if you're just looking at strength of schedule, you're looking at, a team's dual meet and tournament schedule. I think if you start looking at WrestleStat, and if you go to WrestleStat, search any wrestler, and you can see upcoming matches. And I'd be very interested to see what, like if you compared some of the guys who on paper their schools have tougher schedules versus what somebody, let's say Penn State doesn't have the most difficult schedule on paper, but individually, how do their guys' schedules compete? Because how many times do we also see a school have an incredibly tough schedule? Oh, they're at this holiday tournament, but let's say Iowa State, for example. Great, they're on the Southern Scuffle, but then Carr doesn't wrestle or O'Toole doesn't wrestle because, as Dresser has said very well, like, look we make our schedule as a team, but then individually we're going to kind of handcraft the best schedule for them. And I think Penn State does a very good job at that. all that to say, I think is if you're looking at strength of schedule and you're looking at these, go to WrestleStat, click on a wrestler and look at their upcoming matches, and you get a really good idea for how. I don't think many in the Big Ten wrestle a week schedule. I think you can make your conclusion or opinion based on a team schedule, but I think if you're looking individually at what any wrestler, especially in the Big Ten, you're going to see a difficult schedule, and Dean is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I mean that particular guy has a hard on for Penn State because he wants Penn State to wrestle Oklahoma State. He's been bitching about the same thing for 3 years. Actually, it got worse since David got there. But anyway, I mean Penn State's scheduling works for them, guys. All they do is like set historic numbers. So they also just wrestled like basically a dual meet at the World Championships. So blow smoke. Weak non-conference schedule maybe, but you're not dodging anybody when you wrestle in the Big Ten. You're gonna wrestle all the best teams in duels, and then you're gonna go into the number 2 most difficult tournament in the season, in the whole year, which is Big Tens. There is nothing soft about wrestling in the Big Ten, no matter what you are. And that is a good point too, Larry Steele. Penn State's schedule looks a little weaker because they don't wrestle Penn State. I mean, they're wrestling Ohio State, they're wrestling Nebraska, they're wrestling Michigan, they're wrestling. Stop it. Anyway.
I'm just glad you're fine. Well, hold on. I'm just glad you're finally on the Josh Barr train. I can go get my 197-pound national champ Josh Barr sign over there. Last year, they got ridiculed for. Now everybody's caught up. But I am this way.
It wasn't national champ.
No, I know, but it wasn't an outlandish take when he ended up making the finals. Willie, I'm really excited. You got Rademacher at 2 and Elam at 3. Those two guys I'm so excited for. I love Elam. I'm so curious to see how he comes off injury and can he get back and get over the hump and get to the NCAA finals. And Rademacher's had so much freestyle success. Can he translate that to folk style in the NCAA tournament? And I'm excited for that.
Well, I'll say this. It is a style change. One is freestyle, one is folk. And that is 100% true. And if you have some apprehension about being all in, being sold on Rademacher being a super high placer, I get it. But this is how I feel. I feel he's 2-3-4. I feel he's 2-3-4. Take in context, though, that Cam McDaniel placed last year. Rademacher's like 7-1 against him. Right? So there is some data, albeit in freestyle. There is some data that says Rademacher sort of belongs in the AA conversation.
Absolutely, I think he does. He's another guy that you talk locks versus expectations. Like I think his expectations
let
AA.
Let me be abundantly clear and get right out in front of this.
Get out in front of it. Be abundantly clear.
I am so pissed off about that situation. Because let me tell you what's going to happen.
Tell us, Willie.
Rademacher is going to do really well this year. Like, he's going to All-American. I promise you, people are throwing bags of money at him. I promise you. It's going to be really hard for Oregon State to keep him, which is grimy and bullshit. I mean, it's bad for wrestling, man. It's bad for wrestling. I don't want to go off on a total, but I will. These people 15, 20 years ago started. They need to be paid. They need to be paid. They need to be paid. They are pros. They are not just amateurs. They are pros. Well, you know what every sports league, professional sports league has? You know what every professional sports league has? You want to be a big boy sport? You want to be a big boy sport, and you're a big boy sport, and college athletics is big boy? They have salary caps. They don't have and have nots. They have salary caps. You want to be a big boy sport? Put a salary cap in for wrestling. Put a salary cap in for college football. Because what's happening now is gross. It's gross. You take time. You know, I know for sure that college coaches said, and let me see where I had them. I had Rademacher 56th on my big board. He took third at Fargo and fifth at Super 32 and fourth here and fifth there. But nobody knew about him. Nobody knew about him. I remember watching FRL. Somebody sent me a clip one time. Rademacher's freshman year when he did something. Like maybe knocked off somebody half decent or something, or had a close match with somebody. And they sent me a clip from FRL, and they said, look, FRL don't know this kid. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know about him. Oregon State found this kid, offered him a scholarship, selected this kid, groomed this kid. He's a thing now, and people are just coming along with bags. Just coming along with bags. Hey, come over here. Help us win. Help us win. I hate it. It's gross. Totally gross.
Yeah, it's not ideal, Willie. That's for sure. Bashada wants your...
Seriously.
Bashada wants your Matt Scouts hat. Is that one of those big ones? Is that one
Adam
of those...
Cohn. Adam Cohn, look up the definition of socialism, because that's not what definition of socialism is, pal.
Is that one of those big hats? Can you imagine Bashada, the Atlantic Ocean, catching tuna with that thing on?
So, where are we at? Here, I'll tell you where we're at. I pray to Jesus, but I pray to Jesus that Rademacher stays at Oregon State for his entire career. But I am not very confident that that's what will happen. Let's go to heavyweight. I'm second guessing this. Younger Bastida, number 1. AJ Ferrari, number 2. Tay Gadiali, 3. 3 of my top 5 are coming off injuries. Younger Bastida, 1. Ferrari, 2. Gadiali, 3. Isaac Trumbull, 4. Isaac Trumbull also 4 last year. Nathan Taylor, 5. Ben Keeter, 6. Was 8th last year. Blood round Nick Feldman, 7th this year. Cole Marisola, freshman, 8th. My blood round guys are 3 returning blood rounders: Dayton Pitzer, Luke Luffman, and Wyatt Volker, who was blood round at 97. Braxton Abos I have at heavyweight this year in the blood round. Connor Doucette, Brady Colbert, Jimmy Mullen, Coy Hopkey. Other guys I think you need to watch for is Carson Tompkins, David Zuba, now at Arizona State, Trevor Tinker. We definitely have to keep an eye on Christian Carroll, and App State sophomore now, Stephen Moncherry.
It's so awesome that this weight is, all things considered, wide open this year. When we went from a stretch of Gable this and Mason that and Kirk, and you had this ultimate competition between these juggernauts, and now it's like you take a step back, and it's not that you necessarily take a step back and, like, you know, Shane Sparks says 100 times this isn't your grandfather's heavyweights. We're not going back to your grandfather's heavyweights. This is still such an interesting weight. You have younger Bastida, who's an absolute animal. You have AJ Ferrari, who's always electric, up at heavyweight this year. You got Tate coming off injury. You got Trumbull up there. You've got so many exciting things. You got what did I say?
I'm reading the chat on these.
This is why we don't do the chat in the live show.
Marxist retards.
Don't ignore the chat.
But yes, it is refreshing to not have. Last year we kind of had a foregone conclusion. It wasn't a foregone conclusion, though, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, you did have. I mean, Wyatt beating Gable was a monster upset, but you did have. I mean, Wyatt pins everybody all year long, and then only loses a couple matches in NCAAs. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't that it was just that Gable doesn't lose a lot. But this year, like you have a lot of like, what will Keeter do for Iowa? What will Cole Marisola look like in the lineup? Like, what will Ferrari look like up at heavyweight? This is going to be a fascinating weight. And I mean, I love that we already get to see some of these. Like this weekend, we're going to see Bastida and Tay at the All-Star Classic. Love that.
It's a good point by not a wrestler in the chat. Ferrari's going to have a tough time scoring on the heavyweights, and that very well may indeed be the case. I mean, I was thinking about it when I was doing the crystal ball. I crossed my mind, like, AJ really he's not as active, or he doesn't have the volume that a lightweight does, but he wrestles a lightweight style. He wrestles from distance, keeping his space, leg attacks, low leg attacks, and I don't know if that flies at heavyweight. That being said, now on the flip side of that, he is a really good athlete, and combine that with these guys are not Wyatt Hendrickson. These guys are not. They're not big. Ben Keeter's not big. Gatti Ali's kind of big. Younger Bastida wrestled 97. So, Nick Feldman, shorter. There's not Colton Schultz there. That's 285. Adam Kuhn, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see how AJ transitions to a heavyweight, considering that, to me, 197 and heavyweight are two entirely different styles.
All right, can I yell at not a wrestler now?
Sure.
He said, Bash, tell Kale to send Messenbrink and Welch back because you hate recruiting college guys. That might be the worst take that has ever appeared in our chat. If you think
you offended Penn State Bash.
If you think Messenbrink leaving California to go to Penn State is anything near equivalent to Rademacher being poached after having a couple of years of success, you don't understand recruiting. You don't understand the transfer portal. You don't understand college coaches. If you can't see the difference, do you think Kale offered a bag to Messenbrink after wrestling one match for Cal Poly? Like, what are we talking about here? There's a big difference. Cal Baptist. There's a big difference here between a guy wanting to transfer to the best school in the country without question and guys being poached. If you can't see that, then I don't know what to tell you.
It's called Penn State hate.
Yeah, that just like there's people who lump in guys wanting to leave and guys being poached. I don't care if it's Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, anything. There's a huge difference between a guy wanting to leave and a guy being poached.
For sure.
Big difference.
Sure. I don't mind that. I definitely. I just wish everybody stayed where they went, frankly. But you're Mitch Messenbrink, and you go from like the number 60 prospect right? You were sixth at Super 32. You were blood round in Fargo. You were seventh here. And then you go to the U.S. Open and destroy everybody 2 months before a month before high school graduation. And everybody goes, what the hell? You have some different options now, right? And if you're Mitch Mesenbrink and want to maximize your success, I don't fault you for looking around. There is it's markedly different than Stephen Buchanan being at Wyoming and going to Oklahoma, right? But that's an old story.
That's an old story. All right, so that's heavyweight. The fireworks started heavyweight this weekend. Willie, let's dive in to, and if you missed the beginning of the show, let's just clarify here. I'm going to pull up the team scores. These team scores are not hand-selected by Willie. These team scores are if 125 to 285 plays out like Willie predicts, these are the corresponding team scores.
Yep. So you see Penn State very far ahead with 177 points, 9 AAs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 finalists, and a third, which is ridiculous. But Lillardale's a clear finals possibility. Marcus Blaze would be. Shane Van Ness is going to be ranked number 1 in all polls. PJ Duke is a clear. PJ Duke beat the returning national champ. Mitchell Mesenbrink is the returning national champ. Levi Haynes is the clear number 1.
Duke just beat 2 returning national champs. He beat Lovett and Taylor, and I know it was freestyle, but still, like. And I had Duke on the podcast a couple weeks ago or a month ago. Go listen to that too. And I had said, like, does that give you confidence heading into the season? He said, absolutely. It's great to get a feel for those guys. While freestyle and folk style are different, one of the key similarities is being able to take them down. And if I can take those guys down in freestyle, I can take them down in folk style.
And remember, though, I mean, it's a great indication any way you slice it. However, before you go too much next topic stuff. And I agree that, I picked PJ to win it, right? Remember, though, that his match with Ridge was close. His match with Antrell Taylor was losing with 20 seconds to go. So there is some intrigue there. It's not totally next topic, right? But the point being that I have Penn State with 177 points and 7 finalists. And that is not, while it sounds ridiculous and would be a new record, it's not pie in the sky stuff. Luke Lillardale will be a final contender. Marcus Blaze will be a final contender. Shane Van Ness is ranked number 1 in every poll. PJ Duke beat the national champ. Mitchell Mesenbrink is the returning national champ. Levi Haynes has won a title. Josh Barr is ranked number 1 in every poll. So that's not even that's not me projecting way out of bounds. The real intrigue comes 2 and 3, and perhaps can Ohio State, Okie State, or maybe even Iowa State catch Nebraska and Iowa. Nebraska and Iowa, to me, look the surest bets for 2 and 3. Nebraska, I do have them benefit of the doubt.
Shocker.
Well, it's not. It's the weight class composition. Chance Lamer went 1 and 2. You could say Chance Lamer went 1 and 2 at AAs last year, NCAAs last year. Why do you have him 7th? You have him 7th because you like Nebraska? Look at who's behind him. It's a wasteland. I mean,
Yeah,
you could say, um, and look, Nebraska took second last year. They had 8 All-Americans.
six
They
return.
scored. They had 117 points. 6 of the All-Americans returned, and then they added former national champ AJ Ferrari. Again, I'm not. These aren't outlandish projections. So in Nebraska's worst case, I think they're fourth. Iowa, I have 94 with 6 AAs, and I think their ability to catch Nebraska and be second relies on two things. One, if Nebraska stumbles anywhere, now they're in trouble to take third. Now, and I mean anywhere. Like I have Van D taken eighth. If Van D loses in the blood round, that's an opportunity for Iowa to chomp at the bit.
Yeah.
Chance Lamer, I have him taken seventh. If he loses in the blood round, if he goes, now Iowa's right in it. Silas is he's a returning All-American, but he's kind of up and down. He almost damn near lost first 2 matches last year. He could easily lose. Cam McDaniel, returning All-American, but seventh. He's not a lock to AA. So Iowa's path to second is one or two of the Nebraska guys stumbling, which is very, very conceivable, or Nasir Bailey, Jordan Williams, additional points. It's not a hard path. It's not a very hard path for Iowa to jump to 2. Now, I think Nebraska would probably have to completely collapse for Ohio State and Okie State to catch them. Because they're dealing with either a little bit more unproven guys or, I mean, Ohio State's a lot like Nebraska in that they have guys right on the bubble. Ohio State, Davino I have getting a lot of points even though he's a freshman. Styles I have taken third. He was 6th last year. His points are pretty well in there, but there's a 8th placer at 57. 8th or 7th placer Feldman's right on the bubble at this point. So they're like Nebraska, but with a little bit less bullets.
Who do you think, based on your team scores, just looking at the output, who do you think has the most room to outperform what you have right now?
I would say Iowa State.
Because I look at both Iowa State and Lehigh, and I think they could definitely, if you told me those two teams placed higher than 6th and 7th.
Well, I don't think Lehigh, and here's why.
No?
I don't think Lehigh. Here's why. 74, 84, 97, forget about it. They don't have guys that can even overperform. It ain't happening this year. Yeah. And you know what I forgot? I don't know if it's that big a deal, but NC State, I forgot Patrick Brophy. He could score a couple points. Second semester, but he could score a couple points. I actually thought I would have Stanford a little higher coming into this year. I guess I maybe would have if Valencia stayed 41 and Parker went 49. But if Stanford can get any production whatsoever in the upper weights, they might be able to jump. Right now, 11th with 46 points. If they can get any production up top, they could crack top 10, top 8. Um, but it looks pretty to me. It looks pretty clear. I don't see anybody uh, really making a jump if all things go well.
Yeah.
Illinois, maybe. Illinois, maybe if like Webster gets on the podium, who I have blood round. Scholes gets on the podium, who I have blood round. Pacino wins a couple matches. Lucas Bird, who won last year, and I have fifth this year. That could be a 10-point jump. So yeah, maybe Illinois at 16, they could come. They have a path, I think, maybe to 12 or 10. But that's it. That's what happens at NCAAs. You guys don't even have to watch.
The chat is digressing into two different conversations. One, they're still talking poaching and transfer, and they're just arguing back and forth. And one, they're now giving hypothetical matchups.
Between me and Piles don't want that. But
I will say that when people that don't know me, and then they see me, like I remember a guy came up to us at NCAA's at the casino, and they basically thought we were the same height. And I'm 6 foot, 215 pounds. But you never really see that because we're basically the same height right here. And I remember a guy came up to me at the casino and goes, "Wow, Bash, you're a lot taller than you look on the camera." I'm like, "I really only see my chest and my head." Of course. Not a wrestler. OU could jump. Listen, I do think Oklahoma has put together, a strong squad. It's just they got to prove it. But they've put together, they were very, very busy this offseason. It's who can get on the podium and who can exceed expectations. But they do have a strong squad. I think Penn State opens up against them November 14th at the Bryce Jordan Center. That's going to be a fun duel. But there are question marks. Like you talk about Hippolito. What's Hippolito going to do? Peyton Keller, he should AA this year. Like
Oklahoma is an excellent suggestion. It would take like everything going right, but if you said that Peyton Keller has a tournament of his life, Hippolito does what we all know he could do.
He's not going to be worried about being deported.
Brian Soldano finds his form.
Yep.
In a weight class that is horrible. That's a really good suggestion.
DJ Parker, you have.
DJ Parker, I have taken A. Yup. And he could even take a couple of places higher. That's a really good suggestion. Who do they have this year? Wells transferred and is redshirting. They're going to start off with Barrick Jordan. I don't know who's their 33 off the top of my head.
Who's Oklahoma? I can pull it up.
Let's start off with Barrick Jordan. Let's see. Barrick Jordan. Charmoli, who transferred from Wyoming. Alex Braun with Tyler Wells redshirting. Listen, look at their Barrick Jordan committed to Okie State, then went to OU. Charmoli transferred from Wyoming. Alex Braun, Jack Joffrey transferred from Virginia. Peyton Keller transferred from Ohio. Carter Schubert transferred from somewhere, Cal Baptist. Brian Soldano transferred from Rutgers. D'Anthony Parker transferred from North Dakota State. One more. They got 7 transfers in the lineup.
Yeah, they were very heavy this offseason.
And my boy out there, Cam Sakura, he recruits really well. And Marky Mark, my dude Marky Mark.
Agreed. They're doing a great job. All right, that's the 2025-2026 NCAA season preview.
We got to do. What's this weekend? Ready? You ready for what's this weekend?
Let's do what's this weekend.
Saturday, Bellarmine at the Patriot Open, Sacred Heart at Duke, Cal Poly, Cal Bakersfield at Menlo Open, North Dakota State at Wisconsin, Pitt at Navy, Purdue at Cal Poly, Stanford at Utah Valley. That's Saturday. Sunday. Navy Classic. American, Binghamton, Bucknell, Drexel, George Mason, Morgan State, Navy, Nebraska, Pitt, Virginia. Clarion Open, a bunch of teams, but also a bunch of, piecemeal entries, which will be really good, including a lot of high schoolers. Have those entry lists come out yet?
Not that I've seen, or maybe they've. If they've come out, I haven't seen them.
Princeton Open with Army, Brown, Drexel, Hofstra, Lehigh, Lock Haven, Oregon State, Princeton, and Ryder. I just said Oregon State, and it reminded me that last night I had a couple beers, and I totally forgot that I called Josh Roden from Oregon State just to say hi, just to say I miss him. Southeast Open, Presbyterian, Citadel, Virginia Tech, VMI, West Virginia, Minnesota, North Carolina, Ohio, Franklin Marshall, Davidson, Campbell, App State. Bloomsburg duels Rutgers. Purdue duels Bakersfield. That is this weekend.
Yeah, so I mean, this weekend's kind of highlighted by the All-Star Classic and wrestling's back. Get to see some squads in action. It definitely feels like, without the All-Star Classic, which is going to be great, it does feel like kind of like a week zero. Like, you get a little taste.
Yeah. I'll be enjoying it, though. Maybe I should drive to Clarion. Go watch.
Why don't you drive to Clarion? Go watch.
Maybe I will, Bash. That's the season preview. You know you loved it. Go Bills.
And why don't you tweet us and comment if you're watching this, listening to this later out, and you missed the live stream, which, by the way, most of our shows are live, so you can comment, subscribe. You can just comment during the show. But tweet us. Let us know what you think Willie got wrong, what I said wrong. Tweet us,
also,
comment.
Yeah, this show, it's almost 2 hours long now, and we did have another segment. We'll do it next week. But I came up with all these lines. Penn State, over-under finalist, over-under All-Americans, over-under team points. Nebraska, Iowa.
That'll be good for our Monday weekend recap show, because I feel like the weekend recap might be a little light.
Odds to place. Minus 200 for Eddie Van Treska. Minus 110 for Seth Romney. Plus 200 for Cade Brown. All these kind of things. And then odds to win the title, Luke Lillidahl, minus 160. Ben Davino, plus 500. Shane Van Ness, minus 225. Daniel Cardenas, plus 600. Would you put $100 on Meyer Shapiro to win 225? Maybe I'll post them. I'll post them on Matt Scouts. And then next week when we do a show, you can tell me your best bets.
Best bets, Luke Lillidahl. That's my best bet. I like it. All right, that's the show. We'll be back. Wrestling's back. Let's go.